The events described in this video took place in 2008 in Auburn, Alabama, USA. Although 15 years have passed since then, the final word in the Lauren Burk case has yet to be spoken. Lauren Ashley Burk was born on December 30, 1989, in Marietta, Georgia. Her parents, James Burk and Vivian Gershon, later divorced. Lauren had a sister, Jacqueline Burk, and a brother, Chad Burk. After high school, Lauren went to Auburn University, where she studied graphic design, was an active member of the Delta Gamma sorority, played lacrosse, and was generally active in the campus community. Lauren was described by her friends as a well-liked, excellent student, always smiling, happy, and helpful. While still a high school student, Lauren started dating a guy named Sean McQuaid. After high school, they both enrolled at Auburn University, where they continued their relationship. At this point in life, getting an education was a priority for both young people, but that didn't stop them from making plans for their future together. Unfortunately, however, not all of Lauren's plans and dreams were destined to come true. She started the morning of March 4, 2008, by having breakfast at a cafe with her boyfriend Sean. At 11 o'clock, Lauren went to class, after which she called her father, James, to discuss plans for spring break and a visit to the dentist. After finishing her conversation with her father, she went to Sean's dorm, where she stayed until the evening. At 8:30 p.m., she had an appointment with her classmate, Michael. They were to meet in the library and prepare a study assignment together. When Lauren left Sean's room around 8 p.m., it was already dark outside. Her car, a black 2001 Honda Civic, was parked in the parking lot next to the dorm, and she moved towards it. That was the last time Sean saw Lauren. Michael, whom Lauren was supposed to meet at the library, started calling her cell phone after she didn't show up for her appointment, but Lauren didn't answer. For some reason, he kept calling over and over, and finally, he heard Lauren's voice on the other end. She said she wasn't coming to the library because she had forgotten all about the appointment, and then she hung up. A little later, at about 9 p.m., 911 received a call about an injured girl who had been seen lying on the road between the Farmville Baptist Church and Route 280 on the 147 freeway. It was Lauren. Drivers stopped their cars in the roadway, blocking traffic in both directions. Lauren was lying on her back in the middle of the road, taking slow, deep breaths. She was suffocating. There were many wounds on her body, and she had only socks on her feet. At 9:12 p.m., the first police car arrived on the scene, at which point Lauren was already unconscious. A few minutes later, paramedics arrived, and as they loaded Lauren into the ambulance, her pulse was barely palpable. At 9:35 p.m., Lauren was taken to East Alabama Medical Center, where doctors began trying to save her life. 8 minutes earlier, at 9:27 p.m., 911 dispatchers received multiple reports of a car fire on the Auburn University campus. Firefighters and police were immediately sent to the address the callers gave. Unable to find the owner of the burning car among the crowd of curious students attracted by the fire from their dormitories, police checked the license plates and discovered that the owner of the car was someone named James Burk, a resident of Georgia. James Burk is Lauren's father. The police contacted James by phone and learned that the actual owner of the fire-ravaged Honda was his daughter, Lauren, who attended Auburn University. James immediately asked what was wrong with his daughter, but the police officers had nothing to say. They didn't know where Lauren was and told James that no one was in the burning car. After James talked to the police officer, he immediately started calling his daughter's cell phone, but she didn't answer, which only added to his anxiety. Unable to reach Lauren, James first called friends of his daughter that he knew, but none of them knew anything about her whereabouts or the car fire. He then called his ex-wife and Lauren's mother, Vivian Gershon, hoping that maybe she knew where their daughter might be. Lauren's mother didn't know anything about what had happened either. At 9:40 p.m., Vivian called her daughter's boyfriend, Sean. That's how Sean found out that Lauren was missing and that her car had been burned. Sean, calling mutual acquaintances of Lauren and trying to find out if anyone had seen her that evening, learned that she had cancelled a meeting at the library, saying she had forgotten about it. However, Sean knew for a fact that Lauren hadn't forgotten about her appointment for the evening, as she had left his room about 2 hours ago. She had planned to go straight to the library. While family and friends tried to figure out where Lauren had gone, doctors at East Alabama Medical Center were battling to keep her alive. Since Lauren was brought in unconscious and without any personal belongings or documents, the doctors did not know her name. Unfortunately, despite their best efforts, doctors were unable to save Lauren's life. She was pronounced dead about an hour after being admitted to the medical facility. The cause of her passing was a single bullet wound. The bullet, which had traveled out, had punctured both of Lauren's lungs. Experts concluded that the muzzle of the gun was only a few inches from Lauren's skin at the time of the shot. Police officers, comparing the girl's passing at the hospital and the burned-out car on campus whose owner was missing, quickly realized that the victim who could not be saved by doctors was Lauren Burk. The very next day, March 5, 2008, James Burk identified the body of his daughter after visiting from Atlanta. News of Lauren's passing quickly spread around campus. Auburn University released a statement about Lauren Burk's passing, urging students and staff to be extra cautious on and off campus but assuring them that the campus was safe. Many of you and your parents have called and are understandably concerned. There is no indication of any additional danger to campus or student safety, the statement said. The Delta Gamma Society also released a statement about what fraternity representatives called an unexpected and disturbing crime. The society urged sisters of the Auburn branch to cooperate fully with detectives while they sorted out what happened. While Lauren's family and friends were grieving, police were trying to figure out who took her life, how the car fire was connected to it, and whether other students should be wary. Both the spot along the road where Lauren Burk was found and the area around her car were processed for evidence. We have put every resource we can into finding the person responsible for this crime, said Auburn police spokesman Captain Tom Stouffer. Auburn, Alabama is a relatively quiet student community, and we take these things to heart. If someone gets hurt or dies, we all feel it, and we won't rest until we find the perpetrator. Stouffer also said that Alabama Governor Bob Riley offered a $10,000 reward for information leading to an arrest in Burke's case. Lauren's charred car was taken to the Auburn Police Department. Investigators from the State Forensic Laboratory and officers from the State Fire Chief's office sifted through the remains of the car's burned interior. They found scraps of burned clothing, Lauren's melted digital camera, and the car owner's manual. A .38 caliber bullet was found under the front seat, which could mean the interior of the car was the scene of the crime, and the perpetrator had set it on fire to destroy the evidence. Detectives interviewed Lauren's family, friends, and boyfriend. None of them could name a single person who wanted to harm Lauren and was capable of doing so. Knowing that before her passing, Lauren was in a dorm with Sean, the investigators searched his room, but nothing was found to link Sean to the crime. After speaking with Michael, whom Lauren was supposed to meet at the library, detectives learned that when Lauren answered his phone, he heard a noise similar to that of a moving car. At the same time, it emerged that someone had used Lauren's bank card several times shortly after she was found lying in the road. In all likelihood, the person who had Lauren's bank card was involved in her incident, and the police began looking for him. However, events soon took an unexpected turn. Less than 3 days after Lauren's passing, at 9:55 a.m. on March 7, 2008, in the parking lot of the Walmart supermarket in Noonan, Georgia, about 75 miles from Auburn, a man of African descent attacked a 72-year-old woman as she was getting into her car. The attacker hit her on the head, threatened her, and told her to get in the passenger seat. He himself got into the driver's seat and tried to drive away from the parking lot but noticed that an eyewitness to the attack was following him, talking to someone on the phone. The thought of the bystander calling the police prompted the perpetrator to return to the Walmart parking lot. He stopped and got out of the stolen vehicle, ran over to a nearby silver Chrysler Sebring, got in, and fled the scene in a hurry. A few hours later, 4 officers chased the fleeing Chrysler at high speed toward Columbus, West Georgia. The driver did not respond in any way to stop, endangering other road users. During the chase, police observed the driver of the Chrysler throwing an object out the window. One of the chase crews stopped and searched for the object. Police officers found a .38 caliber revolver on the side of the road. Meanwhile, the chase continued, but at one point, the perpetrator's vehicle broke down, and smoke billowed from under the hood. The driver stopped abruptly in the roadway and opened the door. Next, a police officer who was in pursuit on a motorcycle crashed into the open door. After the collision, the officer flew over the handlebars of the motorcycle and fell to the pavement, fortunately not seriously injured. The road where the perpetrator stopped was through a forest, and it was into the woods that he rushed to flee. He could not escape, however. The police quickly caught up with him and snapped handcuffs on his wrists. Courtney Luro Lockhart was born on October 20, 1984. In the words of his family, he was a nice, fun-loving guy until he joined the U.S. Army. He was sent to Iraq in 2004, from which he returned as someone else in 2005. According to his mother, "He wasn't the Courtney I knew," she said. Courtney had been a cheerful guy, but after he returned from Iraq, he never smiled again, never let anyone stand behind him, and sometimes hid in the closet or under the bed. In 2006, Lockhart and his girlfriend, with whom he had by this time broken up, had a daughter. Also in 2006, he was court-martialed for assaulting other soldiers, using illegal substances, and deserting his unit without permission. He spent 7 months in detention before being dishonorably discharged from the Army in December 2006. As 2008 approached, Lockhart was said to have gone increasingly off the rails. He barely showered, stopped visiting his daughter, and was heavily addicted to illegal substances. Beginning in February 2008, he committed a string of burglaries, and with the exception of a convenience store robbery, his methods were always the same. He would approach the victim from behind as she was getting into her car in the parking lot, threaten her with a gun, demand that she give him her purse, and attempt to take possession of the car. One such crime ended with the tragic death of Lauren Burk. Lockhart's string of assaults stopped on March 7, 2008, after he attacked a 72-year-old woman and failed to evade a police chase. After his arrest, Courtney Lockhart, 23, was taken to the police station, where he confessed to kidnapping and killing Lauren Burk. The interrogation was videotaped and became a key piece of evidence at trial. In addition, Lauren's personal belongings, such as her iPod and bank cards, were found in his car. He gave a detailed account of the events of the day he kidnapped Lauren. It was Tuesday, March 4, 2008. Lockhart woke up in his silver Chrysler Sebring, having spent the previous night in his car not far from East Alabama Medical Center. Needing money, he started driving around Auburn looking for another victim. It's worth noting that all the people he attacked were women, none of them were men. His drive ended on the campus of Auburn University, where he parked next to the student dorms. He spent several hours sitting in his car, watching the students. Around 8 p.m., he noticed a girl walk up to the car parked next to him and leisurely opened the door. It was Lauren. Without much thought, Lockhart grabbed his revolver and approached Lauren from behind, poking her with the muzzle of his gun. He asked her how much money she had on her. When he didn't get an answer, he pushed Lauren into the car, forcing her into the front passenger seat, and got behind the wheel. According to Lockhart, Lauren said nothing but screamed in fear. When she finally calmed down, she pulled $200 from her purse, handed it to him, and begged him to leave. Instead of leaving, however, he ordered Lauren to take off her clothes at gunpoint. Hearing threats against her, Lauren complied, stripping off everything but a pair of socks. According to Lockhart, there was only one reason he made her undress. He thought that if she had no clothes on, she wouldn't try to escape. Lockhart then began to drive around the streets of Auburn, all the while holding Lauren at gunpoint with one hand on the wheel. She tried to dissuade him from committing the crime, and when he said his life was over, Lauren promised to help him find a job. At some point, her phone started ringing. Lockhart told her to answer it and make something up so no one would suspect anything. It was a call from Michael, whom Lauren was supposed to meet at the library. When she answered, she said she had forgotten about the meeting and hung up right away. Lockhart said that they continued to drive through the streets of the city, and Lauren wouldn't give up trying to talk him into letting her go. She said she would help him overcome the difficulties he was facing. As they were driving down Highway 147, Lauren opened the door to jump out of the moving car. At that point, Lockhart said he accidentally fired a shot. As we now know, the fired bullet pierced both of Lauren's lungs, and she sustained injuries from the fall. She managed to wave to passing drivers before her strength failed her, and she lost consciousness. Lockhart told investigators that he parked outside a church and watched as cars began to stop next to Lauren, lying on the pavement. Realizing that the police would be arriving any minute, he hurriedly fled, planning to destroy the evidence left in the car. He drove to a gas station, bought a can of gasoline, and paid for it with Lauren's bank card. He then doused the interior of the car with gasoline and drove it to the campus where he had abducted Lauren. His Chrysler was parked there. According to Lockhart, he became dizzy from the gasoline fumes while driving, so he rolled down the windows to let air in. You might wonder why he didn't drive straight to the campus and douse Lauren's car with gasoline there. Why did he drive around with such a hazard? Perhaps it was due to Lockhart's mental issues or low IQ, but we will discuss that a little later. Upon arriving on campus, Courtney took $46, an iPod, and Lauren's bank cards from her car before setting the vehicle on fire and fleeing in his Chrysler. Courtney Lockhart's crime and subsequent trial have left a lasting impact on the family of Lauren Burk and the community at large. The chilling series of events that took place on March 4, 2008, highlighted Lockhart's descent into criminality, his troubled past after returning from military service in Iraq, and the senseless loss of a young woman's life. Lockhart's military background was brought up repeatedly during his trial as his defense attempted to argue mental illness stemming from his time in combat. However, despite claims of diminished capacity, the prosecution made it clear that his actions, abducting Lauren Burk, holding her at gunpoint, and later shooting her, were deliberate and calculated. His dishonorable discharge and criminal behavior leading up to the kidnapping added weight to the argument that Lockhart was dangerous and showed no signs of rehabilitation. The emotional testimony from Lauren's family was a focal point in the trial, particularly their unyielding stance against any reduction in Lockhart's sentence. The judge's decision to override the jury's recommendation of life imprisonment in favor of the death penalty was a rare occurrence but was grounded in the severity of the crime. The judge highlighted the randomness of Lauren's selection as a victim, the egregious nature of the kidnapping from a college campus, and the calculated steps Lockhart took before and after the crime, such as using Lauren's bank card to buy gasoline to burn evidence. Though Lockhart has continued to appeal his death sentence over the years, each of his attempts has been denied. His legal team's arguments that his original defense mishandled the case have been deemed insufficient to alter the final outcome. As of now, Lockhart remains on death row, and Lauren Burk's family remains resolute in their fight to ensure justice is served for their daughter. The case stands as a haunting reminder of the fragility of life and the far-reaching effects of trauma, both for the victim and for those who knew her. Lauren Burk's death and the events that followed have left a profound mark not only on her family but also on the wider Auburn University community. Her story became a symbol of how a young life, filled with promise, could be tragically cut short by a senseless act of violence. The safety and security of campuses, especially for women, became a larger conversation in the aftermath of the case. Lauren was described as a kind, intelligent, and driven young woman with her whole life ahead of her. The fact that she was attacked in a space where students expect to feel safe, her university campus, heightened the shock and grief for her friends, classmates, and the university community. In the years following her death, the Burk family has worked to keep Lauren's memory alive, ensuring that her legacy transcends the tragedy. They've been vocal in advocating for justice and have stood firm in their belief that Courtney Lockhart's death sentence should remain upheld. The courtroom battles have spanned over a decade, with appeals and motions for retrials being consistently denied. The family's statements throughout the legal process reflect their determination to prevent Lockhart from escaping the consequences of his actions. Jim Burke's assertion that "Lockhart gave my daughter the death penalty" is a poignant reminder of the irreversible nature of Lauren's loss. Their advocacy has been a testament to the pain they've carried but also their commitment to seeking justice for their daughter. Lockhart's case is also a reflection of the broader societal challenges involving military service members' mental health. His defense team repeatedly pointed to his combat experience and the changes in his behavior after returning from Iraq. Lockhart's mother herself stated that the person who came back from the war was not the same son who left. While the court acknowledged his psychological struggles, the severity of his crimes and his pattern of escalating violence ultimately outweighed any argument that his mental health should reduce his culpability. In the end, the court ruled that Lockhart was fully aware of his actions. His careful steps, such as using Lauren's bank card to buy gasoline and attempting to burn the car to destroy evidence, contradicted claims that his judgment was impaired. The thorough investigation by law enforcement, the forensic evidence, and Lockhart's own videotaped confession left little doubt about the premeditated nature of his crime. As of today, Courtney Lockhart remains on death row, and his execution has not yet been scheduled. The legal process will likely continue for years to come, as death penalty cases often involve long, drawn-out appeals. However, for the Burk family, the battle for justice does not end with a sentence. It's an ongoing struggle to ensure that their daughter's memory is honored, and that her killer is held accountable. The story of Lauren Burk is a tragic reminder of the unpredictable and devastating consequences of violent crime, but it is also a story of a family's enduring strength and determination in the face of unimaginable loss. Through their advocacy and their commitment to keeping Lauren's spirit alive, the Burks have made sure that her story will never be forgotten.